back. This is Image Bearers. I'm Lacey Connor. Hope you're all feeling blessed and highly favored. Before we start, just remind you guys, if this episode or another episode blesses you, please like and subscribe to the channel, but also share the episode because sharing is caring. And we just want to get one more person in heaven, make heaven crowded. If you want to bless us more, you can donate. The link is in the bio. With that being said, I'd like to introduce our fun guest today. Hello, John.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm excited. You're really cool.
Am I?
I think so.
First time I hear that.
I
Yeah.
know. Well, no, I was just like I feel like we'll get into it. So you do music.
Yeah.
You're a guitarist.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say I said like you're a legit, but everyone's a legit guitarist. But like you actually like still tour. You're like one of those people like people see like on music documentaries and stuff.
Well, hopefully there will be a documentary about me somewhere that teaches somebody what not to do in the
No,
industry.
No.
Yeah,
we'll get more into that.
Absolutely. No, yeah. God has blessed me with this amazing career. This was always my dream ever since I was a kid. So, being able to play guitar, pay my bills, and tour the world doing it has been such an
Right.
incredible experience.
Right. That is
Yeah.
that is so cool. Yeah, no, I saw that. I don't know how I discovered you on Instagram, but I don't know if you like liked my post or something. But somehow your name stuck out and I was like, "Oh, he looks cool." Like I was like, "Oh, who's this?" Cuz I like to like see new people who follow me and stuff. And I was like, "Oh, he's like legit." Plus he also goes to my church. I was like, "Oh, that's so cool."
Yeah. Actually, my wife and I found the Image Bearers podcast online. I think it popped up randomly on like Instagram, and it was my wife that saw a clip, and she's like, "Hey, let me send you this. This is really cool." I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is that round table, babe.
Uh-huh.
Like this is really cool." And so we started following you, and now it's amazing that here we are. Like
I
it's crazy
know.
how the dots connect, right?
Right, it is. It's such a God thing, I feel like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just, like, I guess for some, every time before I come in and stuff, I'm always like, Lord, you brought me here for a reason. There's something here that you want to share.
Amen.
And that's how it was with, I feel like us like meeting and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you were so like nice when we met at coffee and stuff. Well, like, cause I'm like, I don't know what I'm getting myself at. Cause it could go either way.
No, of
Like,
course,
I
yeah.
feel like you could probably feel that way. Like, it's like people who do music and stuff. I actually am not like talked to a lot of I guess now more professional musicians now that I record here and stuff.
Mhm.
But it's like you either get like someone who is super nice and grounded,
Mhm.
or you get someone who's like it's gone to their head kind of.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I was like, I don't. He seems cool. We'll see.
Well, thank you.
Yes, you turned out to be real cool, John.
I'm glad it was cool.
I'm glad I was cool. So, John, you said you've always wanted to be guitar. Like, how did music get in your life?
So my mom and dad were both artistic growing up.
Oh,
My
they
dad
were.
played guitar. My mom played violin, and she sang as well. And we're from Venezuela originally.
Uh-huh.
So, there was really no shot at them ever becoming those things professionally because back then it was a different mentality of you got to go get a real job. You got to go to university and do it properly. Otherwise, X, Y, and Z terrible things, And so, they kind of, put that talent on us, that inspiration to kind of pursue instruments and, get into the artistic side of things. And so whenever any one of us, me and my two siblings, showed any interest in anything artistic, they were like, okay, let's go. Let's support that,
Right.
My extended family wasn't as supportive initially,
Uh-huh.
we kind of had to like prove it to them, through, years of hard work and kind of showing them that, hey, this is going to pay off. You just got to invest in me, so to speak, with your, mental, and emotional support, like we're going to make something out of this.
Right.
But the interest was always there, like the arts were always a part of my parentals, and my
Uh-huh.
siblings, growing up. So
Oh, that's fun.
yeah.
I have a mental picture right now of you guys just like jamming out in the living room or something.
My dad and I used to do that. So
Oh my
back
God,
when
that is adorable. I
back
love
when
that.
having cable was cool,
Uh-huh.
like DirecTV had the music channels. And
Yeah.
so, like, we would put him up. Whenever my dad would get back from work after dinner, we'd both get our guitars and try to like play solos to every song that would pop up. Didn't matter what the genre was.
Really?
Yeah. And so, like, that's how my dad and I really bonded and connected so much. So, this whole music thing for me is also like an open line to my dad. He passed away in 2008. And so, like, for me, this is what kind of keeps him alive for me as well. And, obviously, that's the recognition to him and God, like
Yeah.
being able to play. It's for me, it's every time I'm like, hey, Dad, now we're playing at this venue.
Right.
Hey, Dad, check this place out. It's like, Dad, we're at Madison Square Garden. I'm like,
Right?
we talked about this, like
Oh my God,
it's
that's so
happening.
cool.
And
Yeah.
like, yeah, so it's super cool.
That is.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh my God. So you're one of the people that, like, can hear, like, the guitar and be like, "I know how to play this."
Yeah, so I do, for better and for worse, I have perfect pitch, so it's a gift and a curse. Cause like, if I hear things in tune and in perfect harmony, it's amazing, I
Uh-huh,
feel it, it's great. If something is, like, severely out of tune or, like it's like I hear it instantaneously too. And, like, I know the pitches, like, the letters that go with the
uh-huh.
pitches and things like that, and it's like, so it's either great or not, you know?
Right.
So but that has also helped me learn the guitar relatively quick
Mhm.
and, helps me learn music, especially like if we have to add new songs on the tour set list, or even if I'm producing for a client, if I'm listening to their work tapes, then I'm able to pick up things very, very quick. And if I need to grab a piano, kind of put it together, it's
Uh-huh.
all there. So it helps
You play
in creating.
piano too?
Yeah, yeah.
Is
A
this
little
a
bit.
thing that, like, if you someone can play not like I guess, like, play the guitar I feel like a lot of people who play guitar play, like, another and like, can do another instrument.
I think that one instrument is a gateway to others, so it
Okay.
makes it easier. So I'll
Uh-huh.
never forget, I had a good friend of mine in high school who was a terrific piano player, and I was always so impressed by his skills.
Mhm.
And so I asked him, it's like, "Hey man, so how do you play these like basic chords? And tell me how you're doing all these like, crazy like
Right.
pyrotechnics, on the keys." And so, fast forward to high school, I asked my teacher in piano, I was like, "Tell me where middle C is."
Uh-huh.
And that was it. And then I kind of just took off and I started doing my own thing, because then I could do the whole pitch association
Uh-huh.
from guitar and kind of taking those concepts over into piano. So it helped me learn it really, really quick.
That's
So yeah,
so
it starts with
cool.
an instrument, it kind of trickles down from there. Kind
Right.
of like languages, right? Like a lot of people say that once you learn a language, it becomes a little easier to learn others.
Mhm.
And then like if you learn like French, I speak Spanish. And so like for me, French and Italian will probably come easier,
Uh-huh.
because it's all in that Latin realm,
Right.
right? And like other Anglo languages, English, German, like that would be easier. Like if you are fluent in English,
Yeah.
to learn. So yeah.
Interesting. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Look
It's
at you.
yeah,
You're looking
crazy psychology, right?
right, it is. That's so cool that your brain, like, works that way and stuff. I mean, I never thought that's so fun. You are see, I told you you are cool. You just didn't know
Yeah.
it. You just didn't know it.
Humbly.
Yeah. You crack me up. Now I have before we get fully into music, were you raised in a Christian home, or how did you come to faith?
So I was raised Catholic
Okay.
growing up. My parents put me like in all the classes for First Communion. It
Mhm.
never really happened for me. My grandparents were extremely religious. Like
Mhm.
they had rosaries everywhere, and nativities everywhere.
Right.
My grandparents were very superstitious. So there was a lot of conflict between them and my parents when it came to spirituality in that
Yeah.
regard. Because my parents just saw things a little differently. They didn't want to like go down a very highly religious route,
Mhm.
and so by way of that, my parents started exploring many different philosophies and things like that. My mom and dad got into Buddhism, they got into Taoism, like they learned so many things from different places, but it was never really like a foundational thing. There was never really one place to ground ourselves on. So there
Mhm.
was always so many things, so much information coming from so many different places. It wasn't until we moved to the States and I graduated high school that I had friends telling me, it's like, "Hey, you should come out to my church." They're Christians, and
Yeah.
like, "Come out to our church, come and experience it." I loved it. I absolutely loved the energy. I loved everything that we're talking about. And
Mhm.
it didn't feel like it didn't feel religious, it felt like
Yeah.
relationship,
Yeah.
So I felt really good, and so I'm like, "Okay, well, I wanna audition for the worship team.
Mhm.
Like, I wanna play guitar, in this church." And so I go there, I audition, and, when they interviewed me, that was kinda like my first taste of church hurt, because
Okay.
they didn't deem me Christian enough, so to speak. Yeah, and so then that sent me in my own crazy spiritual journey too,
Mhm.
of trying to find answers and trying to put a definition to what God was,
Yeah.
and I made many twists and many
Right.
turns and whatnot. And it wasn't until I met my wife, that we started kind of, slowly diving more into that. And she actually started going to Trader's Point at first because her best friend's father passed away and she was so close to him and she just felt drawn to God. And she said, "Well, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I need to go. I need to connect with God and I need to be in a group, where people are feeling that same
Yeah.
thing." And so she called me. I was on tour and she said, "John, this experience is incredible. Like, we really need to give this a shot." I was a little apprehensive at first
Uh-huh.
because I was still like it brought up memories from,
Mhm.
that whole thing with church hurt. It's like, "Okay, I'll give this a shot. Let's go ahead and do it." It's almost like my life changed instantaneously after that first service. Like hearing Pastor Aaron talk about the things that he talked about and the way that he worded it and how human he was in it, but still so grounded and connected to
Yeah,
God in all of it. And my fear with going to church was always, okay, am I gonna fall into a religious trap, or am I going
right.
to actually go to a place where I'm gonna learn to foster a relationship with Jesus
Yeah.
and with God? And it was the latter. So it's been an amazing journey. Like I don't do anything without God by my side, without me having that open line of communication with Him. Everything that I do is for Him. Everything that we do is inspired and for Him now.
Right.
And it's just been such an incredible journey.
Right. I
Yeah.
love that.
I feel like my music actually is becoming better now because I feel like now my reason for doing it is not superficial. It's no
Mhm.
longer tied to being human, to the
Yeah.
ego.
Yeah,
It's
right.
tied to God now. It's about how can I serve you now? How can every note that I play, how can all these clients that come through my door, like how can I let you use me? How can I be your vehicle to make their works, do what they need to do?
Yeah.
Because, ultimately
Right.
music is to help people, right?
Right.
And like
Yeah.
it helps you disconnect from whatever's happening around you.
Yeah.
And as you know, there's just so much noise around the world right now. There's so
Oh
much
my
negativity.
yes. Oh gosh.
But it also at the same time, I'm seeing such a surge of people being moved by God now
Mhm.
and finding God and being led to God. So it's a really interesting time
Right. I mean,
for
I
that.
believe 100% that, God uses music. I mean, King David, he played the
Hmm.
harp and
Absolutely.
and so yeah, it helps people and
Yeah.
stuff. So, and especially I love that you said you feel that your music's gotten better because you're doing it for not just yourself. You're
Yeah.
doing it to like further God's kingdom and for other people. Like
Yeah.
it's just like there's more to it and stuff.
The ultimate purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no
Right.
higher purpose than that, So it's like, okay, well, that's it. And it goes kind of back to the also put all your woes and worries, on him. Like it's the
Yeah.
same thing with music. Like I no longer have to think about, okay, well, is this song going to impress this group of people,
Yeah.
or this group of, record labels or this or whatever? It's like, no, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Use me.
Right. I mean, that's the Lord says if if you put your trust in him and you do it for him, he will bless your work.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and I'm experiencing that, and it's awesome because it always comes as a surprise, and it's always like a gift every
Right.
single time, and I get giddy and like I feel that excitement, and that's how I feel like the Lord is talking to me in that regard. When I feel that thing in the pit of my stomach and that
Right.
excitement, when I know that I just put together this amazing thing, and I know that it was guided by Him.
Mhm. But
So.
I mean, that's wonderful. And I love that, like you see that and that's totally true and that you're able to testify about it. But yeah, what have so you I guess we'll go into the music thing now. Like was there any time so you said started you were on tour and then your wife was like you need to try like you need to try this church, this is a great experience. When you then suddenly decided to go to church, started to have a relationship with the Lord, was there times then when you were on tour that you're like it was a tension you had to like if you were to make this decision, it probably wouldn't be the most popular or conflict with it wouldn't accelerate your career, it might like kind of hinder it a little
Oh,
bit.
absolutely. Well, maybe not hinder the career so much as the social aspect
Yeah,
of it,
there you go.
because, I always tell people 95% of what we do on the road is the hang,
Mhm.
like how you interact with your bandmates, because you're only on stage for an hour and a half, if
Right.
that. And so that's very little time. Sound check doesn't even make it to an hour. So the amount of time you're playing music is very minimal compared to the amount of time you're actually spending with these other people that you're living in a bus with and going from state to state, country to country with.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of different mentalities, there's a lot of different philosophies. I think that now the timing couldn't have been more perfect for me to like start developing this relationship with Jesus, because there are more grounded people in our camp now,
Okay.
whereas before when I first started playing about 10 years ago, it was a completely different thing. I kind of felt like the oddball out. I
Right.
mean, I wasn't, that was still well before I found my way, to
Yeah.
God. But I still wasn't like I didn't party. I never did drugs. I don't drink, so I was still very much an oddball out compared to the majority of the camp that did all of those things. And I ended up witnessing so many things that I was like, oh my gosh, like
Right.
I mean, I know that this comes with it, but this is not what I signed up for. Like, I'm here to play music and I'm here to live my dream,
Mhm.
And so there was always that kind of conflict, between, my heart and soul,
Yeah.
to be able to kind of separate myself with that. But I think that now, after starting going to church, it was very different. Like one of my guitar techs, he is a Christian as well. And so, like, that opened up the door for he and I to develop an even deeper relationship in that regard. Our tour manager is a Christian as well.
Oh, really?
So is our higher, like, management. I mean, like, a lot of people that are in it that are that way.
Mhm.
And so it's like now we have like a text thread, that is for
Right.
us, like we call it the fellowship. And so, like, we share, Bible verses of the day, and like we have
Mhm.
discussions and things like that. And, we had a little fellowship group too on the road, usually before shows, we would get together and have a little Bible study, and that kind of really just set the tone for how the night was going to go, especially when we were having, if we were having a really hard day,
Yeah.
if the boss wasn't having a good day, or if, the majority of people weren't feeling it, or, there's some kind of obstacle, because that could happen in our
Yeah.
industry, anything that could go wrong will go wrong, and so, but like we always found a way to ground ourselves back in our Bible study and fellowship time. So, um, but yeah, no, now it's better than ever in that regard. I mean, there are no elements that are keeping us from, maintaining our roots grounded firmly with the Lord.
Yeah. I love that you have like, a little, like, fellowship thing on
It's
the
amazing. It helps so much because
right?
it
Oh,
keeps
no,
you
I bet
reminded,
so.
yeah, and I mean, and we all do it on our own too, like we
Yeah.
have our, devotionals, and like we do, but it's nicer, as they said about the church, right?
Yeah,
Like
right?
it's good when you gather everybody in one place that is like-minded and is there for the same purpose,
Yeah.
where it's all about the Lord, and it's, but it's,
Right?
but by the masses,
Yeah. Well, it helps you, I feel like, when you're on the road, it can be a lonely thing. I mean,
Yeah,
like, because you go from, I mean, I don't know. All I know is what I've seen in
yeah,
movies and stuff. But you go from like like tour bus, hotels,
hmm,
just like by yourself. So,
yep,
I mean, like, it is good to have your own faith, but the Lord also calls us, like you said, to be in
yeah,
community because, like, we're made in the image of a Trinity, like the Father,
hmm,
Son, the Holy Spirit. Like, we're meant to be in community. So, if you
absolutely.
have that, it helps you to just have a better bond and stuff.
Absolutely. And that loneliness that you talked about has become much less because of that. I mean, throughout my career, doing this thing, I mean, the loneliness was very, very heavy.
Hmm.
And that was something that I discussed with my wife, that there's many times that you go out there and you do the thing, but then you come out of it and it's like, okay, well, now I'm back to the box, to the hotel room. And it didn't matter how awesome, the hotel was. It didn't matter how cool the city was. There was always this element of loneliness
Hmm.
that was there. And it wasn't, physical loneliness of not having people around you necessarily. It's spiritual
Yeah.
loneliness, because you're so disconnected from everything. It's like, okay, well, what do I do? Like, where do I put my purpose now?
Yeah.
But now it's just so much different because now there's, having that relationship. I can always look forward to having that conversation with Jesus
Right.
every single time, no matter what I feel. It's like, well, all right, Lord, time to chat,
Right.
what do we do now?
Right?
Yeah.
What we chat about, well,
Yeah,
today I had this.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
do you see that? Because I love that I mean, I don't love that you talked about, but, like, that do you see that a lot with, like, artists and people in the band that kinda, like, because it is, like, y'all are on stage and you're on, like, big stages and
Mhm.
stuff. Like, you said you're gonna go, like, Stagecoach and you've been to all this music festivals. Like, that's I mean, like, I used to go Lollapalooza all the time, and
Oh,
that's a
cool.
big hype, like,
Mhm.
tons of crowd and then walking off of it and stuff. That could really, like, mentally do
Absolutely.
a number to you, and
Oh,
then,
big
yeah, because
time.
you just I mean, like, because you hear so many times these artists are huge, and then they're like, "I'm just super lonely, like, no one cares about me," and
Yeah.
stuff. Do you see that a lot? Like
Oh, 100%. All
right?
day, every day in this industry. And I think that's why so many of my peers have resorted to drugs and alcohol
Mhm.
and things like that because they're trying to numb this feeling, but it's really an emptiness.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're not numbing. I mean, there are people that have very real problems and they're
Oh, yeah.
trying to numb those problems, but the ultimate problem is disconnection,
Yeah.
whether they know that's what it is or not.
Right.
But ultimately, it's disconnection from our source, from God.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that. I've seen people be broken by it in my industry, and I've seen people go really hard on drugs because of that, or resort to lust,
Yeah.
and that happens a lot on the road, and
Right.
and heavy alcohol, and just so many things, to try to get away from whatever their demons within
Yeah.
are. If they only knew that what was lacking was that connection to God, I think that everything would be so vastly different. But I think that we're seeing a turning point again.
You
I mean,
think so?
seeing artists like, Brandon Lake,
Right.
especially doing things with Jelly Roll. I mean, Jelly Roll is a terrific example of really reforming yourself. I mean,
Right.
coming from the roughest of rough to now okay, I see you, God. Like, look at
Mhm.
what you've done for me. Now, what can I do to continue using this to expand your kingdom?
Right.
And it's becoming more mainstream. It's becoming cool to love God again, which
Right.
is awesome.
Right.
So it's a much different time now, and I think that a lot more of my peers are being exposed to that now.
Right.
And ultimately, my hope is that that changes their hearts. So
I mean,
uh,
isn't that all our hopes? We want heaven to
right,
be crowded, like I
yeah,
said. And
exactly.
I appreciate, I mean, like, I love that Jelly Roll has been so, like, public with it and stuff,
Hmm.
and I love that he's like, "I'm still broken," and all this stuff, like, "I'm not perfect, but I'm working towards it," and stuff, and
Absolutely,
I think that is it. I think it does give people on, like, artists, like, permission to be like, "Let me look into this now," and stuff, and
yeah.
kinda be like, because like, we all realize, like, we all gone through a path where we're like, we were trying to fill this empty void with other stuff, and I think him bringing the Lord up, it's kinda like, "Oh."
Hmm.
Like, this does it gives permission to be like, "I am broken, let me look into
Yeah.
this a little bit."
And a reminder that we are all broken in one way or another,
Right?
and that's why we need the Lord,
Uh-huh.
because we are all to one degree or another. There's something that is missing, that separation, that can only be mended by Him and
Right?
Him alone.
Amen to that. John, he's just preaching
Let's
today.
go,
Right?
church, church.
Giving us church today. But it's just it's just your, like, position, like, where you are and stuff is so interesting because, like, we've been talking, like, I feel like, just music is like sex, drugs, and rock and roll kinda thing,
Hmm.
and I feel like even I mean, you do mostly like, currently right now, you do country and stuff, or,
Yeah,
like, you tour with a country artist and stuff, and I think, it's just they still, like I don't know, it's just such, like, a music is such a beautiful thing because it's a gift that, you give to people and stuff, but it's also very draining and stuff.
absolutely.
How do you, like, come off the stage from, like, such a high, like, loudness and then just going on to, like, did that have to, like? Because I remember one time Brandon Lake was talking about how, like, suffered from, like, panic attacks and anxiety after because he was on this big tour and stuff, and it
Hmm.
was this high and stuff, and then he comes home and it's just, like, no one's there
Yeah.
to that, like I don't know what
Yeah.
it is. There's not that, like, high, there's not that, like, rush. It's now just, like,
Yeah.
nothing, like
So that is something that I'm contending with actively and very currently right now, and it's something that I'm really praying for very fervently and hard every day because now that for the first time in 13 years, Chase is taking a break from touring, and so we're only doing spot dates here and there.
Yeah.
But with that, I mean, like, even the whole financial structure of that, has
Mhm.
changed for all of us, but then also not being on a stage has also made me contend with my identity,
Right.
of a performer. And that's the thing is when you go on this journey, and I will not just music, any journey where
Yeah.
you want to achieve some kind of greatness, you become obsessed with that pursuit. And so you create an identity around that.
Right.
And so for me, I've always looked at myself as John Souki, the musician, John Souki, the guitar player,
Right.
for a very long time. And now I'm being faced with that thing of, well, right now I'm not being that full-time, guitar player. Like that's clearly not my identity. And so there's a bit of an existential thing that is happening as a result of that. Because as Raymond Lake said, it's like, well, now I'm not there. That purpose is not there as it used to
Yeah.
be. What do I do now? Like, who am I without this thing? And that is something that I'm praying for every single day, and very slowly I'm kind of chipping away at it, but it's something that is challenging me actively. And it challenges many of us in this industry
Right.
because we do hide behind that mask of the performer, the mask of the guitar player, the bass player, the drummer,
Yeah.
the this and the that, and it's really it's a mask full of ego. That's really what it is.
Right.
Because you do get used to, and I hate to say it this way, but like the adoration and the admiration that you get from people, but kind of going back to God, it still doesn't fill that void,
Right.
and I thought that that was gonna
Yeah.
fill my void. I grew up being severely bullied in school and when I was living in Venezuela, and for me, like my music journey was also a way in my mind to kind of get back at the people that wronged me,
Right.
so to
Yeah.
speak. But I never knew how to turn that off for a really, really long time.
Right.
I've tamed it a lot, but there's still much work to do when it comes to that, because now it's finding myself outside of this art,
Yeah.
because what happens if my instruments get taken away? Like if I'm no longer able to do this, who am I without this?
Right.
and that is something that I'm contending with every day. And I can speak for many of my peers too. They're contending with that every day as well.
Right. No,
Yeah.
it's I mean, like, that's something I feel like like you said, like any person struggles with like identity. Mine was like I used to be a nurse and now I'm a stay-at-home mom and
Yeah.
stuff. But it was just like I worked so hard to be a nurse. I put all my
Hmm.
identity because I was cool. Like I was doing lifeline, I was in helicopters,
Oh,
like I was doing
wow.
all this stuff. And then I came home now I, stay at home with kids and it's like
Yeah.
you don't have that, like, you don't have someone telling you you're cool, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you don't have that so, like, I feel
Exactly.
you, like, it's that it is, and it took a lot of, like, wrestling and kinda, like I mean, now I mean, it's now, like, been, like I'm 3 years out and stuff,
Hmm.
and I'm just starting to be like, "Okay, Lord, like, this is where you want me, like,
Yeah.
this is what you're teaching me." But
Hmm.
it is, and I could I'm so amazed by, like it's just because 'cause you're, like, on stage, and, like, you're, like, legit on sta I'm not trying to make you, but, like, it's just, like, when
I
it's
know
just
what you mean.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, it's and so I can only imagine, like, the crowd and all that, and now coming back like, I'm not saying, like, like, life like, this is where ministry is. It's
Hmm.
like the mundane is where the Lord grows you the
Exactly.
most.
Exactly.
But when you first get off, get out of that, you're, like, sitting there in your house being like, "All right, I've already had,
Yeah.
like,
What do
3
I
cups of
do
coffee,
now?
like, what do
Yeah.
I do now?" Like,
Exactly.
it is. You get that, like, creeping in the like, you get the narrative that, God tells us to keep, have our thoughts captive because
Yeah.
it is 100 true because if you sit there and stuff, you don't have that like working towards stuff or doing someone telling you or going somewhere, it gets to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's when your mind kind of starts playing tricks on you.
It
And it's like,
does.
okay, well, you need this to soothe this or like whatever. And it's like, no, that's not this.
Right.
We're back to school now. Like, we need to like
Right.
sit down and pay attention and kind of and let the teacher, do the
Right.
talking and do the teaching. And so, that is something that I'm going through actually,
Right.
every day, and it hasn't been easy, but it's also been very rewarding at the same
Right.
time because I'm liking the person I'm discovering that I am without this thing full time as
Right.
well. I'm loving being a husband. I'm loving being at home and tending to our home as well. I'm loving coming to a studio and like actually having an office to
Yeah.
sit down and create. Being a creator is something that I've wanted to be for a long time. And it's like now God has, given me that.
Yeah.
It's the time to now show out and see what I can do with this thing, to further his kingdom, to further this part of my creativity now. This, I want to call it this evolution of how I am as a creative,
Yeah.
and take it to the next level. I always tell people, as awesome as the stage is and touring the world, it is a 9 to 5, like I don't have a stake in the artist business, and that's what a lot of us, a lot of people won't tell you,
Uh-huh.
because we all go in there with the dreams of becoming part of the band and being a part of like everything that being in a band
Yeah.
entails. But like almost like that 80s like rock and roll pipe dream is no longer a thing,
Oh
where like
man.
you had like the Motley Crues and you had
Right.
this or whatever, and it
Yes.
was like an entity with various people. Now
Yeah.
it's you have an artist and yeah, the fans know who the band is, but you're interchangeable.
Yeah.
You're an employee at the end of the day,
Right.
So for me, it's like, well, how do I create a legacy that matters
Yeah.
while still doing this art and not getting away from it, still maintaining my footing in that. And this door that the Lord has opened for me to do production full time now, I believe to be the way. It
Right.
feels right. Even when the going gets tough sometimes, or even like if the work dries up for like a few weeks, or like I'm dealing with a problem client or something like that. Like it's all a part of it. It's an opportunity for me to really show that I can favor the kingdom
Right.
as a creative,
Right.
not just as a guitar player, but as a creative.
Right. That it sounds to me like now you're I mean, like, before you I mean, like, you had other identities, but, like, your main identity was that guitar player for that group, and now it's more like you're now seeing that, like, I have many like, not like many identities, but, like, I have more
Yeah.
gifts, like,
Yeah.
the Lord has made me more than just this guitar player,
Hmm.
and I love that you mentioned that because
Yeah.
that's so I mean, that's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true, but it takes the Lord taking you out of something you thought you were like, "This is what Imma do.
Hmm.
This is who I am. This is cool. This is what like, I
Yeah.
did this to get back at the bullies and
Yeah.
all that," but then the Lord's like, "Yeah, but boo, you're more than that."
Well, and it's that test of faith, right? Like
Right?
it always
Uh-huh.
takes me back to one of my favorite stories in the Bible is the book of Job. Because
Same
and
here.
I always go back to Job
We're so
every single
morbid.
time. I
Right,
know, I
right?
know.
People were like, "What?" I'm like, "I do. I love the suffering in it and how, like, the end part where
Absolutely.
God was like, 'Dude, where were you when I made the world?' and stuff."
Exactly.
Right?
But it's like having that unshakable faith that no
Right?
matter what gets taken away from you, no matter the famine, no matter the disease, no matter anything, like if your faith is strong and is stronger than ever, the Lord will always favor you.
Right.
It may not be in our timing, and I think that's the problem that we have as humans is
Yes.
that we want it and we want it now,
Right.
and that's another thing that I'm contending with too, because in music, usually if we wanted something, I mean, 9 times out of 10, we could get it,
Yeah.
like as far as like an experience or everything was readily available. But there was also a lot of depression that came with having everything so readily available too,
Right.
like, okay, well, it doesn't feel like there's a purpose in that, like I'm not being challenged to have that thing, like where is the challenge in that? And then now that I'm being challenged, not just in my career, but in my spirit as
Yeah.
well. Like now I'm feeling again, so to
Right.
speak. Like and you forget a lot of times when you're on the road doing this thing for a long time, you forget to feel sometimes.
Really.
Because you can get on some of the world's biggest stages and still feel like you're running through the motions. Like I can tell you maybe 4 or 5 venues in 10 years where I have felt the butterflies and I've been like this.
No.
Yeah,
Which is bananas because you've
it's
been on
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, but then everything else
Yeah.
is like running through the motions. Yes, I'm excited. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm happy, but it's different. It's not like, like when we played Madison Square Garden or we played the O2 in the UK or, we did
Uh-huh.
Red Rocks, where I was like, whoa, like
Right. Because you're like, ah,
yeah,
yeah.
because I glorified those places.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember putting together a mood board fresh out of high school, like I called it my law of attraction,
Yeah.
mood board or
Yeah.
whatever. And so like I did cutouts of things, and those were my 3 venues: the O2, the Red Rocks, Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And my dad was still around, and I told him, I was like, Dad, I don't know how it's gonna happen, but like I'm gonna play these places. But
Mm-hmm.
like it's almost like I worshipped the idea of doing that.
Yeah.
So, okay, those 3 places made me feel that thing, but okay, well, what's next? I did that now,
Right.
like, okay, now I'm just running through the motions. How can I feel connected? And then you do start in some way, shape, or form, start taking like advan or start taking things for granted to a certain degree, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because now it's like, okay, well, it's been given to me, like I have it. Like, all right, what do I do now? I'm just running through the motions. What's next on the horizon?
Yeah.
And sometimes we need God to shake us up, and in our case, it was Chase sitting us down and telling us last year, well, uh, guys, we're gonna take a break.
Yeah.
Like this is like my first serious break, and it's not COVID where we had to. Like, no, this is we're really taking a break now, and this is gonna change things financially for everybody, including myself.
Mm-hmm.
This is how much I'm looking at playing next year. I hope that if I get back at it in 2027, that you guys will be around. I will totally champion you if you're not, but this is the reality. And
Right.
in that moment, it's like the rug gets, pulled
Right.
from under your feet. It's like, well, what do I do? And in past times when that's happened to me with other artists, I didn't handle it as well. The anxiety was so
Right. I could
huge
imagine. Yeah.
and uncontrollable at
Mm-hmm.
times. Now it was like, it was different because now I was going to church and I was like connecting with God. And it's like, okay, well, yes, I'm afraid, Lord, I really am. I'm
Right.
scared. Like for the first time in 10 years of my life, like this thing that was so stable is no longer going to be. But I have faith that you're going to lead me in the right direction. I know that you're going to take care of this and it's okay. I'm going to do what I can here. I'll
Mm-hmm.
make all the phone calls that I got to do, but that's it. And once I do that, it's on you to take me where you want me to be.
Right. Isn't it
Yeah.
crazy though that like you thought because you look back and the other times you've been like, oh my God, like you were anxious and you're just like, I mean, there's nothing. I think people get worried that like when they're like it's okay to be fearful. Like
Yeah.
that's what the Lord calls us to do. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with being fearful. But
Absolutely.
I bet when you look back, you were like, oh, what is this? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm scared, but I'm not like fully scared. You know what
Exactly.
I
Like
mean?
there's that feeling of safety. There's a blanket of comfort in
Mm-hmm.
it now that I didn't have before.
Right.
It's so much different now. I feel like I can now I have the greatest of all, to put my, cast my worries
Right.
onto and know that it's gonna be okay. My thing now is to not act in haste as a human
Oh, yeah.
being and try to rush anything at this point.
Right.
I have to trust the process. Now I have to trust his way and his process
Right.
because there's nothing that I can do that I haven't already done,
Mm-hmm.
and any time in the past where I try to force something to be, it ends up becoming 10 times the disaster.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm letting it go. I'm gonna keep being the creative that I am. I'm gonna keep saying yes to the opportunities as they come, and I am not putting a label or an attachment to anything. It's whatever you want it to be.
Right. No, and that's I mean, it's so like but it's still the waiting is what gets
Hmm.
me too and like just
Yeah.
like life because you want to be like okay this okay let's do this
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to have the control to be like
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen next
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
problem is that not like
Yeah.
the like, okay, Lord, like, okay, this feels right. We're gonna
Yeah.
do it. We're gonna see how it happens and
Yeah.
stuff.
And that's a reminder that, when we act in haste, it's like we don't believe in him. It's like we don't have faith in
I know,
him
right?
because we feel like we have the way and we know the way and we have the answers to everything, where we're so mistakenly and sorely wrong. Every time we try to do that, like there is no other way. We can't outwise the Lord. We
Right,
can't outpace him. So we just have to be. We have to let him be. We have to let him do work through us,
right,
whatever that looks like. And I'm having and again, and I'm contending with that. I'm having to
right,
be
yeah,
open to what that's gonna look like. Tomorrow I may wake up and not even produce music,
right,
and maybe it could be the greatest thing that happens to me, or maybe I'll produce more than I ever have, or maybe I get called by the most unlikely artist that would ever call me, and that would set my career in a whole other path that I never
right.
imagined. I'm not gonna put labels on it. I just have to let go and let God.
Right. Let go.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Let go and let God.
Yeah.
It's true. It's so true and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's so true. It's just that waiting is what the Lord's definitely teaching
Yeah,
me waiting too.
absolutely. Well,
Bec-
patience, that's a virtue. That's
I
something
know,
that we need to be
right?
better at.
It's a fruit of the spirit, and it only
Yeah,
comes through the Lord. The Lord gives you patience because it
exactly.
otherwise we gonna go crazy if
Yeah,
we try to do it and stuff.
exactly.
But it's the patience is the hard thing, and I don't know. It's just like it cracks me up because when I read the Bible and I'm like, these people are waiting like 20, 40 years, like
Right.
400 years, and I'm like, what are we doing in the next month? I must know what we're doing in the next month.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
well, it
is
doesn't help our reality now. I mean, we're more fast-paced than ever. Like, we were
right,
chatting earlier about having to have alarms for so many different things, and, like,
right,
I'm having to put everything on a calendar.
right,
Every single thing, where before, when life wasn't as busy, I could commit everything to memory and I knew exactly where to be, when to be there, and all that. But
right.
it's like now, even for the most mundane tasks, we have to be reminded because we are surrounded by so much noise
Oh, right.
and we're moving faster than ever now. And, yeah, we're moving faster in one way, but then we're also regressing in other ways, because now our spirit and our hearts are consumed by all these things that we believe we must do
Right. Yeah.
to be able to survive here, right? And so, that is it's crazy. It's a lot of noise when it comes to that.
It is. It
Yeah,
is. It's so true. You bringing up the noise, and the thing is, like, there's so much noise, and life is actually a lot easier than it used to be. Like, you know what I
absolutely.
mean? But
Yeah.
in that easiness, we still think like we need to be like doing stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's so hard for me to like sit down at home and be like, okay, I'm going to rest. I'm gonna chill. Like,
Yeah.
even taking a nap. Sometimes I'm like, I shouldn't take a nap. I need to do this. I need to call
Yeah,
this
it's like you
person. No,
guilt yourself for doing the things that honestly you must
yeah.
do.
Right? And
Yeah.
the Lord's like, "I did not call you to do all this stuff. I
Yeah.
told you to just chill, be patient, and just
Yeah.
rest in me." And I'm always like, "But I need
Absolutely.
to do this. I need to do volunteer to do this thing." And the Lord's like,
Absolutely.
"No, you
Yeah.
you need to rest."
You absolutely need it,
Right?
but that's the thing is, being able to let go of that guilt of
Right.
allowing ourselves to rest. But it's all over the Bible. It's all
Right?
over. He tells us to, as you
Right?
said, and we must do it. I read somewhere that because it feels like time is flying right by us. Like
Right?
I mean, I think we're gonna snap our fingers and it'll be December again.
I
And like
know.
that's how it's felt for the last bunch of
Right?
years.
Oh, yeah, no,
But
definitely.
it's not that time is moving any faster. It's that we're just doing so much more
Mhm.
and we're so busy and cluttered with
Right?
all this noise that it feels like time is going faster, but time hasn't changed. It's still the same thing. It's just we're giving our attention and our energy to things that make it feel that way.
Right? Oh, yeah. It is.
Yeah.
It's definitely that. And I think it also has to do with like the society of just being like individualistic kind of thing.
Exactly.
Being like, this is my thing. I need to do it. And it's
Yeah.
so hard to get out of that mindset of being like
It is.
individualistic and being like, okay, we need to do stuff for the community or like even like like
Exactly.
we need to do stuff for the kingdom, like what Lord calls us to
Hmm.
love him and love others.
Yeah.
And like, so we need to do it like, just remind, like, it's always the small stuff.
It
Why is it?
is.
We make stuff so complicated, but it's like even the gospel's easy, loving God and
Hmm.
loving others. Like it's easy, but we are just like, oh, but we have to do this, we have to do that. And it's like, you
Absolutely.
don't.
Well, yeah, because you have all these influences feeding you. Well, on this side, if you believe on this side or this whatever, this is how you got to think, and this side is
Right?
telling you this is how you got to think, and it's all noise at the end of the day. It's as you
Right.
said it. It is as simple as that. It's love your neighbor,
Yeah.
and like, and love the Lord, And
Right.
that's literally all you got to do, and the
Right.
rest puts itself in place.
Right.
And it's really cool that you brought the whole community thing up because yesterday in Nashville, before we started driving back home, my wife and one of her friends went to a coffee shop down there, Crest Coffee, I think is what it's
Is it
called.
good? 'Cause
It's
I know
really
you're a
good.
connoisseur of coffee.
Yeah, so well, I haven't
Oh,
gone
you haven't?
yet. She
Okay,
went there
okay.
for the first time. Her friend suggested it, and it's a Christian coffee shop. It's
Oh,
attached to a church, and so she went and she sent me a picture of like a little board that they had there. When you get coffee, you basically pay what you believe it's worth, and all that money goes back to the community.
oh, wow,
Yeah,
that is so
like to
cool.
do things for the church
Right,
community and like, outreach and like all that kind of stuff. I thought that was amazing.
right, that is so
I
cool.
asked my wife, I'm like, "Well, how much you pay for your coffee?" She's like, "Oh no, I paid $10." Like
Right?
we'd never pay $10 for a cup of coffee, but it's like
But
the purpose behind it is
right,
so incredible. I'm like, geez, like if only everybody would think this
right,
way, right?
right,
That whole spirit of fellowship, that spirit of community. I mean,
right.
imagine where we would be right now.
That's so true. Because people the thing that gets me, what I've been like, is kinda annoys me, is that people say one thing, but then they
Right.
don't do it.
Yeah.
And that's to say, like, they're I mean, like, that's such the beautiful testament to, like, the Christian faith. It's like, that coffee shop is like, "Whatever you think," and stuff, like and it's not and they put it into the community, which is, like, what we're supposed to do. And I feel
Exactly.
like a lot of people don't talk about, like, a lot of this stuff because we watch the news, like, "Well, what's the church doing for that? What's the church doing for this?"
Right.
And the church does do like, a lot of stuff, but I love that you brought something to light
Yeah,
because it does, and you
exactly.
don't wanna be like, "Oh, we do this, that," because we
Yeah.
don't want to, but I
Yeah.
love that you brought that up.
Yeah, and it
That's a
shouldn't be just for the church to do it. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
the church is called to do
Yeah, it's
it,
called to help, yeah.
but we as
You
individuals in an
right,
individualistic time of our lives, we should still remember to ground ourselves back into community.
right, yeah.
I think that's why I love music so much too, because music is such a communal thing. And then particularly here at Round Table, where we
Mhm.
are now, is the whole motto of doing things through collaboration, creation through collaboration in that
Right.
regard, because it's all a community thing. I produce records on my own all the time, but I enjoy it so much more when I do it with other people.
Uh-huh.
When I get to feed off other people's ideas, where we get to put this work together, and it's not a matter of I'm the boss, it's going to be just my
Right.
ideas. It's, well, let me see what you got. Let me see what we can all put together. I mean, let's humble each other. Like
Right.
this, there's a beauty in that. Like, I feel that the best works come from that. And
Mhm.
some of the greatest hits of all time are created that way. It's a little community, it's a little group of people
Right.
that do something. One of my favorite producers and songwriters, Desmond Child, he said it really well in an article. He said, because somebody asked him, he said, well, how do you do song splits with
Mhm.
people, like when it comes to like royalties on the back end and all that? It's like, well, it doesn't matter. Whoever was in the room, we all split it evenly. Even if that person didn't touch an instrument or anything, that person could have just been in the room and I could have looked at that person and they inspire that idea, that
Right.
chorus in that
Right,
song.
yeah.
So they're practically co-writers in that whole thing.
Right.
So the more you do together as a community, the greater the
Right.
effect. And that's why, being at church and doing more with the church in that regard is making me feel much more fulfilled
Right,
in that
yeah.
regard, because I feel that together as a community, we have so much more that we can give.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I love that this producer, I mean, little does he know what he was saying is like a biblical thing. Like, you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Like, you're
Yeah.
like, little do you
Yeah.
know that that comes from the Lord and the
Absolutely.
Bible.
But that's the thing, is everything, the good and the bad that we've been warned about, it all is in the Bible. Even
Right?
all of it, even all
Y'all
the
just
wrong
need
that
to
we're
read
seeing
the
right now.
Bible, right?
Exactly. It's
That's
been
it.
there the whole time.
Right? It's been there.
Yeah.
We just and people try to say, like it just gets me too. And people say stuff, and I'm like, "Did you read that Bible? Did you read the Bible?" Like, no. I'm like, "Then why are you saying stuff?" No other time would you quote
Yeah.
something you didn't read, but like,
Yeah.
it's just yeah. But like, just read your Bible.
It's literally there. It's
It's
literally
literally
there.
there.
Well, and I mean, and in our industry, our industry inherently is very demonic.
Yeah.
It is. There's
Okay.
so
I
it's
mean, I believe that, but
it is. I mean, if you start looking at the sources and you start, not to, start digging down a rabbit hole, but like,
right.
when you start following the money and you start following all these things, you ultimately land at very dark
Mm-hmm.
people that are moving the pieces in all
Hmm.
these industries in entertainment, like Hollywood and the music
Right.
industry, things that are kind of coming out of LA and all that. I mean, inherently there's a lot of demonic, like undertone to
Hmm.
everything and foundation to this whole thing. So for me, it's amazing to kind of see, people like, Phil Wickham and, Brandon Lake, and
Yeah.
now even Jelly Roll, like they're disrupting it. The Red Clay Strays, like they're
Yeah.
they're disrupting it in one way or another. one of my favorite bands, Papa Roach, Jacoby, their front man,
Uh-huh.
now has been talking about how he left alcohol after finding Jesus, and like
No.
he's now talking about that in his live shows. Like it's becoming cool to worship the Lord again, and it's like that's what this industry has needed for a long time.
Mhm.
Because, in my opinion, it's lost its way a long, long time ago.
Right.
It's been about the material, it's been about the this, and it's been so overly sexualized
Mhm.
too, to the point where what are we selling here? Are we really selling the music here, or are we selling a product that the music is the vehicle to a different product?
Right. Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's,
yeah, I would
yeah.
definitely say so.
Yeah, and that's where we're at, and now that's why you see, and that's not no disrespect to their musical artistry, but that's why you see so many really big artists right now that are utilizing sex and lust as the vehicle to kind of,
Right.
get the ball rolling with everything. And it's like, well, it doesn't have to be that way. Like,
Right.
what can we do to shake this up? Like you don't have to sell your soul, so to speak, to this level of darkness to be able to show people your artistry.
Right.
There's so much music is more beautiful than that. But music is like money. Money isn't inherently evil. It's what you do with it that
Right.
makes it
Yeah.
either good or evil. It's the same thing with music. Music is only as good as you want it to be or as evil as you want it to
Yeah.
be. That's why it's so powerful because it plays into our hearts and into our souls. We all listen to music. You're
Uh-huh.
having a bad day, you have a song queued up for that or
You
an
do oh
album.
my god, yes,
If you
it's
have a
so
good day,
true.
you have a song queued up for that too.
Right.
You're at the gym, you have a playlist for that. Like there's always something that leads you back to music because inherently if you look back at tribes in
Yeah.
the past humanity, I mean with drum music and people shouting and dancing and things like that, it goes all the way back to our foundations as
Yeah.
humans. It's very important, but it can go either way. It depends on what you use it for.
Right.
So it's really nice to see the disruption, the holy disruption that is happening right
Right.
now in that regard, because we're being reminded that your age no longer matters in this industry. For a while, you had to be, this was your cutoff. And then after that, you were ignored. You were worthless, so to speak.
Mhm.
That doesn't matter anymore. It's starting to matter less and less. And now it's starting to matter more that God is at the forefront of it all.
Mhm.
And it's really amazing to see that turning point.
I love your perspective. Like, well, I also that's so funny you brought up music being like kind of it could be demonic because I was just talking to my husband last night about because I was like, I feel like sometimes I'll say that and people think I am the weirdest person for saying that. And it's not like I don't believe like every music's I'm not one of those people
No,
that's
no,
like,
no.
like a guitar is demonic and
Yeah.
stuff. But I do think music can like I now look back now that I have a relationship with the Lord, and there's some music I listen to, and I'm not gonna like I'm not blaming the music for the decisions I made, but
Yeah.
I do think there is something in there's spiritually something in that music.
Yeah.
There is.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
It depends on who's making it,
Yeah.
exactly, and who's behind that machine that's driving that.
Right.
That's why there's almost no coincidence why some of the biggest hits that make it to the top, you have to really follow the trail behind some of
Right.
that music and behind some of those songs and things like that because it's and like I love symbolism, like I pay attention to a lot of symbolism.
Mhm.
So a lot of Super Bowls, I think this one with Bad Bunny was a lot different as far as like the visual symbolism, but
Yeah.
like if you look at past Super Bowls or some other things or whatever, you see, and it's on the Bible too,
Right.
you
It's all in the
see
Bible.
like the combination of certain colors, the utilization of the red and black with everything all the time,
Uh-huh.
but also what is being shown. I mean, I've seen shows where like they're just at this point, it's like they're just telling us in plain sight. It's like, well, there's a pentagram
Right.
right there, or there's a Baphomet right there.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh wow, well, I mean, that's pretty evil.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
mean, that's not in my book, that's not cool. That's not heavy metal. And I'm a metal guy, like that's a
That's what cracks me up.
yeah, like that
I'm a
doesn't
metal guy.
that's what I'm saying. But like
Yeah.
for me, it's like, like metal doesn't have to be demonic, like it
No.
doesn't have to be any of those things, but when you follow the machine that's driving those things that are in fact demonic,
Right.
that's where the problem lies.
Right.
It's not necessarily that secular music is bad because
No.
it's not. The spirit of the person is what matters at the end of the day, the person making it and the machine driving it. So, it's paying attention to those little things, but there is a turning point happening. I'm seeing it
Right. That well,
every
yeah,
day.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's good because I
It gives me hope,
yeah, it gives me
Yeah.
hope because like you said in the beginning, like music is not inherently bad. Like
Yeah.
the Lord made music. Like it's an
Exactly.
art. The
Exactly.
Lord made art. There's a reason why you look at like a piece of art and you get moved. Like the
Exactly.
Lord did that. It's
Mhm.
just, Satan uses what the Lord he manufactures
And
it and
corrupts
makes
it.
yeah, he corrupts it. I mean, same
Yeah.
thing with like sex or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like it just makes something made to be beautiful. You take it out of context and it
Mhm.
gets it gets, it goes bad and stuff. Like someone
Yeah.
always says that, like someone said, like, fire, like it's great when it's contained in a fireplace, but then when it
Mhm.
goes out into like a room, it's
Exactly.
destroyed.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with like music, like anything the Lord
With
makes.
anything,
Uh
with
huh.
anything, even with self-control in
Right.
those regards, that's what self-control is. It's controlled fire,
Yeah.
is being able to keep the fire in the fireplace and not let it spread to a point where you can't contain it anymore. And then that's when disaster happens. But again, I see the beauty in all of the change that is happening right
Right. Yeah.
now. And there's a greater purpose, at play in all of it. So it's really amazing to see.
I know. It's just so great to see like the Lord work, and like when you
Mhm.
see stuff like some a lot of people don't see it, but when you see it, you're like, "Ah, the Lord just," I mean, like
Yeah.
the Lord's always good,
Yeah.
but it's always great to see because there is like we were talking about before, there's so much like diversity and so much like division, not
Yeah.
diversity,
Yeah.
division in this world and stuff. But like there is
Absolutely.
still the Lord's still like, boo, I'm still here. Like
Yeah,
look
exactly.
in the music, look, I'm still changing lives. And there's
Yeah.
because people, I mean, like having kids and some people always are like, I'm so afraid, like raising my kids in this.
Uh-huh.
And I always think I'm weird because I'm not afraid one single bit. Like I legit believe like my children are born for this time, for this era.
Mhm.
Like they're going like just us being here, like we're in this era for a reason. It's I mean, like
Yeah.
to further God's kingdom and stuff.
Yeah.
But there shouldn't be any fear and stuff. And I like that the Lord is showing that, like, yeah, no, like with Jelly Roll and some other artists. And I love that you brought up Papa Roach because all I think about is the song like "Turn My Life into
Yeah, I know,
Music."
right?
I was like, that, dude, still this time, I still jam out to that song when I
Yeah.
run on the treadmill and stuff. And I'm like, oh, now I don't feel so bad. So,
But and as a man too, to witness other men now that
right,
are more vulnerable, with their mental health struggles and coming out and also very humbly saying it's like, well, the Lord is changing my life for the better, and they're no longer afraid to say that. They're no longer thinking, well, my crowd is gonna shame me because
right,
I'm over here, preaching, the gospel of Jesus or something like that. That's becoming less and less. And it's amazing to see, because, as men struggle with
oh yeah,
issues too, and for the longest time that's been a thing where, we've been taught to repress it and we just have to keep, plowing forward and we gotta contain it. We gotta
right, yeah,
contain it. But now it's becoming also more normalized. Not just to talk about your mental health struggles, but also talk about how allowing the Lord in helps you with
right,
dealing with
yeah,
those mental health struggles, because for me, at least, I can only speak for myself here, but like whatever mental health struggles I ever had, now I attribute to the lack of that spiritual basis with the
right,
Lord. Now that I have Him and I'm casting my woes and my worries to Him, it's so much different now. The problems are there, okay? They're just the noise around them is becoming less because now I have the greatest of all
right,
that I can be in communion with that, and that I know that for certain He's got my back,
right.
no matter what. I don't know the timing, but He's got my back no matter what.
Right. And it's such a great feeling to feel that, like, once you realize, like, you're not the main character like the Lord is, and that,
Mhm.
like, not things don't rely on you. Like,
Mhm.
you don't have to shoulder this because you're not made to.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
Jesus, like, I'm here for you and stuff.
Yeah.
But realizing that and having that like weight lifted off of you
Mhm.
and stuff is like it's just something like when you see people that are on this struggle bus, you're like, I know someone that can
Yeah.
help this. Like, I
Yeah.
just need, but like once you, yeah, because it's hard. Like once you like one also I had a person on that said, on the podcast, he talked about suicide, and he said, actually, men suffer from suicidal ideations more than women do, like
Mhm.
and that I was like, "What?" Like, just that, but then, like, once he said that, I looked into it more and stuff, and it's so true
Yeah.
because it is the culture you all grow up in, which is
Absolutely.
it cracks me up talking about these because I used to be, like, so, like, feminist, be like, "Whatever, you do you," and now I'm like, "No," I mean, now that I'm married to a man and I see, like, the struggles he has and
Mhm.
stuff, and how, like, how he was grew up and it was kinda like back in like the 90s and stuff. It was like
Mhm.
you suck it up, buttercup. Like you're not supposed to have emotions or any stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I'm
Yeah.
a very emotional person. So it was like, but working through that and having like being married to someone and seeing that, you're like, oh, like y'all do have it hard. Like you do have it hard.
Yeah, and again, and it's not
Yeah.
to
Oh
put
no.
anyone on a pedestal
Oh
whatsoever.
gosh,
It's
no.
just it's acknowledging that there is a problem,
Yeah.
and both men and women have issues, like that, and there are issues that affect us in our own unique ways, and then ultimately, collectively, it affects us
Hmm.
together, right? I've had family members that suffered for a long. My grandfather suffered for a long time, with that as a man, because he never really showed emotion.
Yeah.
My dad struggled with a lot of that as well. I believe that he took a lot of things to the grave with him as far as like unresolved emotional
Right.
conflict and things like that, and those are things that now, with the Lord by my side, I always try to, like be very cognizant of that. It's like,
Mhm.
look, like I'm feeling this right now. What does this mean? Tell me
Yeah.
what this means for me, and what do you want me to do, or what do you have in store for me to get me out of this?
Yeah.
So that, I mean, the less noise I have, the more connected I can be with you.
Right.
And again, and it's good to see it in popular culture now that's becoming a really cool thing to do,
Right.
where
Yeah.
now you can cast your worries away to the Lord. It doesn't matter how amazing of a pop star or this you are or whatever. Like, I'm a human at the end of the day. Like, I also need to rely on something that is much greater than me.
Yeah.
As you said, the whole main character thing in our industry, we suffer from that. Main
Right.
character syndrome is that's what drives us, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
initial like ignition to this whole thing, but then we don't know how to turn it off.
Right. Yeah.
To kind of, shed the black belt, so to speak, to put a new white belt on and kind of climb the summit again.
Right.
There's a book called Zen Guitar that I
Uh-huh.
read a long time ago. It has nothing to do with guitar. It has to do with the art of always being malleable and always allowing spirit to come through you,
Yeah.
so you can always be learning and you can always be reinventing yourself to get you closer to that summit.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And then he used the analogy of the white belt and black belt, like karate.
Mhm.
When we all start with anything that we like to do, like when you started with nursing school,
Yeah.
you start with a white belt and you go through all the struggles that, nursing school entails. My wife is a nurse too.
Oh,
And so,
you're
like, she
right.
told me all about it.
You're like, so I know,
No,
but
you guys went through the ringer. But like, once you attain that black belt, so to
yeah,
speak, and you start working in your field, you reach like a top,
you do. Yeah.
but then where do you go from there? How do
Right.
you learn more when you've already reached the top of that specific summit? There's endless summits.
Right.
You have to shed that belt. You have to come back down and climb a different mountain with a new white belt, because that other mountain's going to have other other challenges,
Mhm.
in that climb. And so that's kind of how I equate a lot of this thing with music now too. It's, being able to shed the old and allowing the new through him
Yeah.
to come through me, so that I can climb this brand new summit that I'm on, and continue learning, and maybe the summit will be a lot higher than any of my other summits,
Right.
because there's a greater purpose driving it.
Right. And I think that's totally, I think you bringing up the, like, there's a greater purpose. I think once you realize, like, there is a great, it's like, you can just keep going. Like, it's just so much new stuff all the
Yeah.
time. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like every day I'm learning something new about myself, or
Hmm.
just like the accomplishments, or even like the little stuff that
Yeah.
I do. I'm like, oh, look at
Yeah.
this. Like, and it's just also, I mean, I talk about this on the podcast a lot, like how you're like, I am so much of a better like person. Like, you look back, you're like, who is this person? Like,
Right.
what am I doing?
Right.
I'm forgiving people.
Yeah.
I'm, like, I'm not worrying. I'm not
Yeah.
anxious. Like, I just woke up and I feel kind of loose. I'm just gonna sit here and drink my coffee and just like look out and not be like have this. I mean, we're still human. We have some
Yeah.
worries and stuff, but like you just feel lighter,
Yeah, you do. You do. And back in those days, you didn't think that that could be possible,
right?
because you thought you reached the pinnacle of who you thought
Right?
you were, right? But that's the thing, is that never ending cycle of change that we
Right?
all go through, and it's always constant growth.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's fun to be like the constant growth. I mean, like there is times when it's like you said, there's times when it's scary and you're like, oh gosh, and stuff, and then you want to, like I always just want to like hold on to, and I have to like legit be like, okay, you have to die to self every day. Like the Lord
Yes.
has a plan for you. Like, because there's so many times I'm like, like if I take
I
that,
know.
like you want to hold on to it, and you're like, but God, this doesn't seem like I have this part I have figured out. Like this,
Yeah.
I think's gonna work out really well.
Yeah.
But then you feel like the Lord, like you just feel like that's like it's the easy way out, and
Yeah.
you're like, the Lord's calling me this, but like I really just want to do the easy way out. So you're like,
Yeah.
I know it's more fulfilling this way.
Exactly. Or it's like, I'm like, look, like, Lord, I'm holding onto this rope and I have 50 cars dangling off the Grand Canyon. You sure you want me to let them go?
I know, right?
But it's that, as you said, the death of self every day. Like, I
Right.
couldn't have said it better myself.
Right. It
Yeah.
is. It is. Like it always seems so like intense to say that. Cause I remember I went through a phase like right when I was stepped away from nursing and was being a stay-at-home mom. And I would tell people, and it sounded horribly morbid, but I was like, I feel like the Lord's just every day, just like I feel like he's like, so you want me to die today? Like you want, like, it's just, like dying
Yeah.
to self. But it's like,
Yeah.
dude, you want me to die? Like this life is not like, it's weird to say like this life is not comfortable, but I have so much peace.
Hmm.
Like it's not comfortable. Like every day I wake up and I'm not like, oh, this is, like, this
Yeah.
is cool, health and wealth. Like
Yeah.
there, it's hard, but for some reason, there's that it's easy because you're not doing it alone.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
it's not like following Jesus is not an easy thing. Like, it's
No.
not an easy thing. Like you said,
Yep.
like we have to wake up every day and like die to self and stuff. But for some, I don't know why, but it's just for some reason it still feels good.
Yeah, it
It's
does. It
right.
does. I agree with you. That's something that has stuck with me that Pastor Aaron at Trader's Point said
Uh-huh.
that the mark of a Christian is a bullseye.
Right.
And that's something, that's a whole other way of saying you got to get up every day and carry your cross,
You do.
and like you're
Yeah.
dying to self every day. And as you said, it sounds really morbid and heavy, but it's really not that way. That's where you find that freedom
Yes.
that you're looking for. You may not even know that's the freedom that you're looking for
Right.
because we've put labels on what wealth is supposed to be
Right.
here as
Oh yeah.
humans. Wealth is not money.
Yeah.
Money's money. I mean, if you have money, well, great. You can get rid of this financial worry, maybe,
Yeah.
but then you have all
There's
these
always
other
gonna be
worries.
something
There's
else.
always going to be
Right.
something.
Right.
Wealth is measured in faith.
It is.
Nothing else. Nothing else
Right.
can top that.
Right, and it's hard, like and I still struggle. I mean, like, I still struggle sometimes being like, like, I was talking I had a girls' night, and someone was like, "Oh, this person I feel like this person's, being more blessed now because they're getting relocated now to Joshua Tree." Like, I feel like
Mhm.
sometimes God favors others, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Nah, I rebuke them in the name of Jesus Christ because that's not true."
Yeah, right.
And it's like we also like we do like we sometimes measure how blessed we are. Like, we're doing the right thing by like how like moving to Joshua
Yeah,
Tree or a lot of
absolutely.
followers or, like people, but it's like, that's not what it is. Like being blessed is waking up and one, having the Lord and also like being in a great marriage. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's like the little things are blessing. Like, this is cool. Yeah. Joshua Tree is cool, but it's also Joshua Tree is going to fade away. And there's not going to be
exactly.
like, but
Exactly.
what you are going to have is Jesus Christ and our wonderful spouses.
Exactly.
Right.
I couldn't agree more. Comparison is the thief of joy,
Right.
and that's something that I remind myself every day because I fall in that trap too.
Right.
And that's, again, the devil playing tricks on all of us. Like there's always that thing. It's like, well, but look at what that person's
Right.
got. Look at what that person looks like. And you don't have that. You don't
Right.
look that way. Like therefore that makes you worthless. And there's always that voice inside all of us, telling us and making us second guess every single time. But it's that reminder that we're not here to compare each
No.
other. There is no comparison to
Right.
be done. As you said, the blessings that you have in, being a wife and, doing this that you're
Yeah.
doing right now, this is that kind of outreach that you're doing right now. And it's amazing that this even exists. That's a gift all in itself. And that is your gift given to you for you to then proliferate to the
Yeah.
rest of the world in the way that you know how, in the way that he knows you know how.
Yeah.
And the same thing with me and the same thing with everybody here. We all have our own ways. There's times when I think about that too. We talk about it every winter. Like we were talking about earlier, how, it's like, California would be a great place to just, escape to right now and
Right.
just like live there permanently, or Florida or this or whatever. But no amount of running away from something
Right.
is gonna ever get you away from that something.
No. You gotta face
You
it.
gotta face
You
it.
do.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we'll take your vacation. It's cool.
Right?
And you know what? If you're able to make the move, well, now, okay, the move is being guided now.
Yeah. Right? It is.
Yeah.
It's just that I mean, like, the thing
We
is
just gotta control everything.
you
That's our
got that is a
problem.
human, I mean, like, it all goes down to Adam and Eve. We all wanted, we wanted that knowledge
Yeah.
of good and evil, and so we wanted that control. And it's something like, I mean, like, we just keep going. It's that surrendering,
Mhm.
and that's the hard thing, like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, surrendering when it comes to even, like, walking away from nursing or, now staying at home
Yeah.
from being touring and stuff.
Humility is the hardest thing
Oh my
ever.
gosh,
It really
right?
is. It's harder than the hardest challenge.
Right?
Whatever we could think the hardest challenge is,
Right?
humility is the hardest thing,
Right?
but it's the most important thing.
It is. It's just, I mean, like, I love, like, we're just all talking about, like, it all. I mean, I feel like pretty much it's gone down to just humility and patience and
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah. And again, I mean, and to circle it back to what we're talking about with music and the arts, it all plays into everything that we do. When we create our works in music, there has to be that level of humility and patience as well.
Hmm.
Okay. Every album, that's why, like, when you listen to artists in interviews and they tell you how deeply connected they are with an album, or why a record, like some artists take 10 years to make an album, it's because there's a lot of growth that is happening. There's a lot of internal change that is happening during that time. When we present music to people, we're giving them a snapshot of who we are, but not just who we are here.
Hmm.
It's a spiritual snapshot too.
Yeah.
Of and if you're listening to an album that has, say darker undertones or
Mhm.
things like that, maybe that artist was going through a really tumultuous time. I mean, we can talk about Jelly Roll, somebody that again very recently reformed.
Yeah.
When you listen to a lot of his old music, he's talking about his very deep struggles. It's a very deeply personal thing and a very deeply personal spiritual thing.
Mhm.
And now the things that he talks about now, he's gradually changing his tune to talking about that transformation
Right. Oh, yeah.
that is happening now. And so it's music is a very spiritual art for that reason as well, because we are giving you all of us, and whatever, ultimately, well, better want the Lord to be guiding you in that regard. That way you can give that to people. That's your outreach. That is your fellowship to other people.
Yeah.
That's how you spread your church to other people too. But again, also it depends on what the foundation about it is. It could be good or it could be bad. You could also be selling people the lie.
Right.
And
Yeah.
a lot of music sells people the lie. A lot of music sells people the truth.
Mhm.
It's a very personal thing, right?
It is. I love that.
Yeah.
Gosh, yes. I mean, it's so true. I feel like we should almost end on that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that's so true. I love how you brought the music aspect into it. Cause I mean, that could be like anything, but music is, I mean, like you said, music is just part of our lives. Like, dude, I used to music carry me through like my middle school, high school, like
Yeah, right.
breakups and everything.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
like it does. Like it
Yeah.
is something music is like any it's I mean, it's a form of art, so it's made by God.
Yeah.
And so, like, and you have people have these talents, and I love that you brought up like it takes people so long sometimes to write albums because and you learn so much about them and where what phase they were and stuff.
Absolutely. And that, whether they know it or not, is helping other people, and
Right? Yeah.
identifying with those records to find their own ways. For me, some of the most valuable experiences I've ever had playing music live is when you have people come to you, tell you that, I almost didn't come to this show. I was ready to end it all. And I'm glad that my friend brought me out because now you guys have given me a new zest for life and you've given me another reason to wake up,
Right.
in the morning. I'll never forget when we were in South Korea and we were playing for the troops out there. And military personnel came up to me after the show. His friend was already chatting with other people, but he said, "It's like, guys, thank you so much for all you do." I'm like, "You shouldn't be thanking us. We should be thanking you. You guys are out here in the front lines and doing the thing." It's like, no, no, no. We appreciate y'all, because we're not at home. And you guys bringing a piece of home to us is so important. But my buddy he hasn't been handling this really well. He kept talking about how he wanted to end it all, end
Right.
it all. And I was able to force him out. And I'm glad that he came to the show because now he said, you know what, I think I want to wake up another day. I think I want to give this life thing another shot,
Right.
and like this is what I needed. I needed a thing to help motivate me and remind me that even in all its ugliness at times, that life is still this incredibly beautiful thing, this gift that the Lord mercifully and gracefully gifts us every day that we're here,
Right.
even if we don't deserve it, like, but we're here, and there's a reason to live, and I'm always happy that that music that we play does that to people. Like that to me snaps me right back into what is actually most important. When I see kids on the crowd and they're doing this whole thing and they're
Uh-huh.
shouting and they're excited, those are the first people that I'm gonna go to and give them a guitar pick or give them a set list because they're the future.
Yeah.
Like they could walk out of there with this foundational memory, this core memory that could eventually either make them artists as well and do something great for humanity that way, or just be something that inspires them so much to just do greater good, no
Mhm.
matter what that looks like. So this is also a vehicle for that. This is church for me.
Yeah.
Music is my church in that regard. That is how I try to glorify and exemplify God, is always remembering that whenever we're there, I have this mission, I have this purpose, and I have a very important job to do. Entertaining people and taking them away from their woes, even if it's just for an hour at a time,
Right.
it's a gift, and it's not even my gift. It's he is using
Yeah.
me. That's his gift, and all of us to be able to help each other at the end of
Mhm.
the day to build the community, to remind us that we're all one together.
Right. I love that, and I think it's I heard one person say once, like, "My gift will entertain and, draw a crowd," but he's like, "The Holy Spirit's the one who breaks chains."
Absolutely.
And that's what I mean, like, that's pretty
Yeah.
much a small like what you
Yeah,
said.
absolutely. Well, we can argue that the greatest concert of all time was when, Jesus preached to I forget how many thousands of people and there wasn't enough bread and fish.
Right.
and
Peace
he
comes.
made it happen.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And that brought people together, and that spread the word even wider.
Right.
And it's no different with music, the fans, your followers, and all that. I mean, you have a great responsibility. Okay, it comes with a lot of responsibility, a lot of power with that. Okay, because now you have all these people that look up to you in some way. Be a good influence to those people,
Right.
like show them the right way, like help them with your music, help them with your talent, allow them to walk away from that concert much better than they came in.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility that we all have, whether you play guitar, whether you help somebody in a hospital, it doesn't matter what it is. Help them walk out better than when they walked in.
Yeah. Yes. Clock it. Yes.
Yes.
All right. We're going to end on that because that was beautiful. Thank you. Oh, before I go, let us pray real quick. All right. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for John sitting down and we get to talk about you, Lord. Heavenly Father, just anyone who is listening here, may they feel blessed by this episode, Lord. May they know that they are not alone in their struggle, Lord, and that you have good plans for them, Lord. You're not plans to harm them, but to do good, Lord. Guide them, speak to them, Lord, and may your will be done. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right.
Amen.
Yes. Thank you, John, so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. It was
Yes,
awesome.
That was so much fun. I like chatting with you.
Likewise.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone. This is Image Bearers. I'm Lacey Connor. Go with God. Bye.